Welcome back. Gotti, Gambino, you hear those names? Two words may come to mind. The mob.
Yeah, the mob. And our next guest's father spent 30 years in prison. While that was happening, he was raised by the underground world that is known as the mafia. Joining us this morning, Giovanni Gambino. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Your father, Francesco, he worked for John Gotti. Pretty much everybody knows that name. He was one of the most famous crime bosses out there. How would you describe your father?
He was so good, my father. If I was Jesus, I would have him right next to me. But let me correct the underworld, the underground. The birth of the mafia came about the 1800s, when the French rulers took over Sicily and they started abusing their power and raping the Sicilian woman. And a lot of bad things went on those days. That's when the underground, the underworld came about. The mafia started building these underground headquarters, sort of, and trying to get rid of the people, the French oppressors, from abusing the Sicilians, from the abuse of power that they had. So that's where the word came about. The underworld.
You get very emotional, it seems. You get very, when you started speaking about this, you just kind of changed.
No, you know what it is? The mafia has
a bad reputation,
yeah,
maybe?
Worldwide, but people don't know that there is a good side to the mob. You got the good, the bad, and the ugly, like everything else.
Right.
In politics, you have that too, all the time happen. You have, the rise of Hitler, who was in government, and, then everybody else follows, in Europe, and they got no... they got no other ways but, to take that side, you know what I'm saying, because they don't want to get killed and this and that. But then you got the good side, America, that rises up and connects and allies with the mob.
Is this what you saw as a child growing up? You view your dad as a dad. Did you know what your dad was doing when you were a kid? What was your relationship with your dad? Playing ball?
My father was very well dressed, man of respect, man of honor. No, mafioso, it's a good word in Italy. Mafioso or mafiosa means, elegant, tough. It doesn't mean a mafioso, criminal. Mafioso or mafiosa is not a criminal word. It's a good word. It's elegant, tough, man of honor, man of respect. Unfortunately, like I said, international, the mob is, the bad, it's bad, it's drugs,
I think some of the movies
killing.
had some.
Yeah.
Now, Giovanni, the movies, we've all grown up watching them, so the majority of Americans have a perception of what the mob is. Now, do you ever, when you're talking and promoting your book, Prince Marta, do you ever run into people who, especially Italian Americans, like the Rudy Giulianis, that get upset that some people seem to think that the mob is a glamorous, good life?
There is a good and a bad in the mob. For an example, to the movies, explaining mob as a movie-wise, you got The Godfather, Don Vito Corleone. He was involved with the politicians, he was involved with entertainment, and he wanted to keep it that way. And no drug business. You know what I'm saying? And the guy that came around and says, hey, the drug business is a big business, we have to do this and that. Don Vito says no, and the guy trying to whack Don Vito. That's 99% what the mob is. You have the Don Vito, you have the drug dealers, and just like the movies, you got the Godfather, Goodfellas, the movie Goodfellas, with the drug things, and then the Soprano with the prostitution and the strip joints and all that. You have all that, but you have the good side of the mob.
How much did you see as a kid growing up? I mean, were you aware of anything, or did you just?
I was fortunate to grow up in the good side of the mob, very well dressed, men of respect, no cursing, no bad words, you know what I'm saying? Everything was perfect.
Your dad did go to prison though, 30 years?
My father was falsely accused and convicted, and with his last name, he had no chance. I mean, the feds were saying, hey, Chicho did this, Francesco did that, he did that, and the jury bought everything they said because my father had a great present. He looked like a don. I mean, he was a don.
Who took care of you when your dad was gone?
Well,
your mom was home?
My mother, she was the father and the mother of the family. She took over as a father and a mother.
You have siblings?
Yes, I got 4 sisters and 1 brother.
Wow.
And it's great growing up, when you have the good side, raising you. It's good.
Well, with the good, there's always the bad, as you mentioned. And you had mentioned in your book that there are hard times. and I'm assuming the hardest time was the day your father went to jail. Do you remember that day?
Oh, I can't even forget.
How old were you?
I was very close with my father, very, very close. And when my father, I was 14 years old.
Oh.
Wow.
So when my father went to jail, and the way he went to jail, I mean, the lawyer says, you're going to beat this. But he had no chance. I mean, the mafia has such a bad reputation worldwide. They use that against them. They don't look at the individual anymore. They don't look at the person who has 6 kids. They don't look like the person was like 44 years old and it was his first offense. Everything the feds started saying, they believed. Oh, Don Cheech, in those bags there was drugs. My father told me, in those bags there were money. There were no drugs. You know what I'm saying? The good side of the mob, they don't deal with drugs. They're not drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? But, the feds thought that there was drugs in there, and they stuck with that thing, and the jury bought everything because my father, he was a very elegant guy, and he made a good impression. Is a Don.
The book that you wrote, you say the name of the book because I'm not going to say it. Prince of Omerta?
Yeah, Prince of Omerta.
Okay. Now, some of the stories that are in the book, are they from your life? Did you take those stories?
Most of it is true. It's true events that have happened in the course of 200 years. The characters that I put in that book are true characters. I mean, in Sicily...
Names have been changed to protect
the names have been changed because I don't want nobody to knock on my door.
Right.
But that is true. That is a fear. I mean, because there are still...
my friend says, John, listen to me. You're a good writer. If anybody could talk about the mob and get away with it, it's you. I say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show that there is a good side and a bad side. And I wrote the book.
Now, if they made a movie out of your book, would it be something you would be proud of and say, yes, this is the right story now?
Yeah, right. It explains that, how the mafia was born in the 1800s, how it was born to protect the Sicilian, the poor people, and it goes on to now. I mean, you got people can't afford a lawyer. The mob walk in and listen, I'll help you out. I'll get rid of that jerk that is beating you up. You know what I'm saying? The lady can't afford a lawyer. And, you need people like that. It's like $6,000 for now these days for a divorce. The lady don't have money.
That's pretty cheap for a divorce.
You know what I'm saying? It's pretty cheap for some people. For some people.
If you make it into a movie, I'm available.
For some people.
I still have my hair.
Yeah, and we do have shoe polish if it loses. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Okay, come on. What's the book?
And as far as the book, and what I've always wanted to know, when you grew up in that and you see the movies, these movies are a pretty true depiction?
The Godfather is as close as you could get to the mob because it shows the good and the bad. And just like my book, Prince of Omerta shows you the good and the bad. The Godfather, then, it's The Soprano is, a strip joint. I mean, the guy, telling his mother to, screw off.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. We're going to end on that. Where can people find your book, The Prince of Omerta?
You could find it in Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and I got my website now, GiovanniGambino.com.
Thank you so much.
I think we need to go to Joe for a cover-up. What do you think? Florrie?
She said it, not me.